Hey everyone, Shane Gothia here. I'm here with Damion Relier. He is a health insurance broker, and about a year ago now, I actually got connected with him, and kind of been. He really helped me. Him and his wife, they're a team, and they helped me kind of get set up with some health insurance alternatives. Really focused kind of on the self-employed freelancer space. And yeah, we're just kind of here to have a conversation about health insurance. This is mostly US focused stuff here. And yeah, let's kind of get started. Um, Damien, where did you kind of get started? What's your background?
Yeah.
Kind of tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So I've got a longer background than we'll probably share today. But in the insurance world, so we're down here in Tampa, Florida, originally from upstate New York. Just got sick of the cold. Had some friends down in Florida and decided to move down. And ended up getting into the insurance world as far as property and casualty. So home and auto, worked with one of the biggest companies in the country. I won't name them so we don't get in trouble here. But enjoyed the work, had the opportunity to do really well, help a lot of people with their insurance. But what I found was I was working for a captive agency, which means you can only sell that company's product. And I had to turn a lot of customers away because one, they were too expensive, or two, I just didn't have any other options to be able to help them. So I had some friends in the health insurance world, talked to them, realized that they could work from anywhere and they could help people all over the country. Because in property and casualty, I was restricted to Florida. But in the health insurance world, I'm licensed in 10 or 11 states right now. So we can help people all over the country. And I'm a broker. So I have access to over 40 different companies, which allows me to pick and choose, right? I don't work for the insurance companies, I work for my clients, which I believe for us was much more beneficial because I wanted to make sure I was doing right by people, not by the companies.
Yeah, that's big. That's a pretty good background. Like what would you say? Because I know when we got connected, it was really good timing for me. And there's just like health insurance is definitely it's a broken system in
Yeah.
the US, and it's become political, and it's just not the way it should be, in my opinion. So kind of what you offered me was really just a better option at the time, and it still is. What would you say is like the core problem with the way health insurance is kind of running right now?
Yeah, for sure. That's a big question, and I won't be able to answer it completely. No one ever probably really will. But I think a big problem right now in the country is transparency as far as pricing goes. So like we taught you, we have plans, and I can go over the four different types of health insurance when we get to it. But there's certain plans, no matter what insurance you have, you should always ask how much things cost. Because whether you have a plan with a low deductible or a high deductible, you're still going to need to come out of pocket for a certain amount. It's like walking into a car dealership and saying, "Hey, I need a car. I don't really care about the price. I just hope it's not too expensive." What are they going to do? They're going to give you the most expensive car. Same thing happens in the hospital system, right?
Yeah.
You walk in, you need an MRI. You go, well, I hope it doesn't cost too much, but you should be able to know, right? Like it should be like walking into a restaurant. You look at the menu, you go, "Okay, I want this." But that doesn't happen in the hospital system. You really have to fight tooth and nail to find a price for anything. And that's what we do for a lot of our clients. A lot of our clients have like our personal cell phone number. You have the same cell phone number my mom has to get a hold of me. And that's what we
Hmm.
like to do for our clients. We've talked to doctors on their behalf. We've helped them shop around for surgeries. But to answer the question, it's transparency. There's no, I'm not for more regulation, but I think it would be helpful if there was a more the word I'm looking for, it's like across the country, like standardized pricing. I think would be very helpful, at least to
Yeah.
some degree, because we've seen claims where a hospital is trying to charge $130 a night for just sitting in a bed, or $130,000 a night just for sitting in a bed, which is it's astronomical. You can't even make it up.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest problem is transparency. And on the consumer side, not being more intentional about asking for prices, asking how much things are going to cost, negotiating. I don't think clients and consumers realize they have that power.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like this thing you're handed you have to use and just follow the system more than
Mhm.
like, no, I'm actually just like anything else
Yep.
in the world essentially is I show up and there's a price and there's a market.
Exactly.
And if I don't like the price, I go to the other side of the market where there's either a higher or lower price or a different value or a different quality. Um,
Yeah.
so why? I mean, if you want to get into it, why is it
Yeah.
$130,000 a night? Like, there's a reason for that. What are your thoughts there,
Yeah.
maybe?
Yeah. We're still in the process of figuring that out. So
Hmm.
what we'll do, we'll go to bat for claims for clients. Again, we're very high touch. We have a company that one of the insurance companies owns where we can send claims to them, and they're negotiation experts. They're claims experts. So they will break that bill down. But just looking at the breakdown, this particular client needed a surgery. He had a blood clot in his leg. So they needed to do a surgery. So for the room, he was in ICU for 48 hours, which was about $12,000 a day, which isn't terrible. That's pretty standard, or $12,000 total. So about $6,000 a day, which is, it's pretty standard. But when you look at the breakdown, it was $194,000 in surgical implements. Okay, well, what does that include? Like surgical implements is not enough for me when you're charging me $194,000 for something. We've seen Tylenols, like a basic Tylenol, like you can get at Walgreens. One tablet is $250. You're like, it's not, right? It's just not. We've seen clients
Yeah,
charge $500 for gloves. Like you might use a couple pair of gloves during a surgery. Even if you use the whole box of gloves, a box of gloves does not cost $500. So
yeah.
again, it just comes back down to accountability and transparency. The right hand doesn't really talk to the left hand. So to get pricing for things is very, very difficult on the consumer side.
Yeah. And I don't want to go too deep, but if I'm not mistaken, the problem here, the reason this stuff happens is because of the way insurance companies run traditionally,
Yeah.
is they have to inflate the price so that they get paid a reasonable amount in the end. Like there's all this negotiation.
Yeah.
So then kind of what you offer, since it's more of an alternative,
Yeah.
you're really negotiating because you're like, whoa, we're not in the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas it like in a perfect world, you should get the care for a reasonable cost and everyone's happy, but it just
Yeah.
doesn't work that way, unfortunately.
No. No, and it probably never
Maybe kind
will.
of talk, yeah, yeah. Maybe kind of talk through what are the current like health insurance options. If I'm just
Yeah.
I need health insurance, what is it, June? What can I do in June versus what can I do later in the year? Because I don't know if
Yeah.
a lot of people don't realize that there's actually a difference there.
No, they don't.
Um,
So you, as a consumer, have the option to shop health insurance all year long. You don't have to wait until the fall. So what I'll actually do, I'll share my screen quick because we have some options out there. It's easy as a visual to show these without getting too in depth with the health insurance realm. It's not all that exciting. It can be confusing. But as
yeah.
you can see, there's 4 buckets of health insurance. Okay. You can see the pros and cons. The one most people are familiar with is major medical or ACA or Obamacare. Again, when you're looking at health insurance, it's not good insurance or bad insurance. It's just good fits and bad fits. And this is why we're brokers. We can represent all of these. So maybe someone who is a good fit for a major medical, great, we can put them there. But maybe someone's a good fit for another option, we can put them there too. So for major medical, to keep it simple, it's good for people if they're a part of a big group plan, like through a company sponsored health insurance, they get really good rates because the employer eats a lot of that cost. Or someone, say they're responsible for their own health insurance, if they have a low income or a pre-existing condition, ACA or the marketplace is going to be a really good spot for them because you can get a discount based on how much money you make. And if you have a pre-existing condition, you want to go there because that's going to be the best option for you. Okay. Short-term medical, this is a good alternative to ACA. It mimics it really well. The only problem with this is short-term medical is more designed as a catastrophic plan. Okay. So you usually have anywhere from an 8 to a 10 to a $12,000 deductible to meet before anything's covered. And it's not going to cover your day-to-day stuff. It's not going to cover your doctor visits or your
Mm,
urgent care or anything like that. But it's good for, an alternative, right? You don't want to pay, say you make good money, a family of 4 typically runs anywhere. If they don't meet that minimum income requirement, it could be $1,500 a month on the ACA. So it's a good alternative. Now, health share ministry, these technically are not insurance because they're not regulated by any state department of insurance. They're usually put together by religious organizations or churches, and there's nothing wrong with it. The only thing you have to be careful of is in their contracts, they do state they don't guarantee formal payment. So they can deny your claims essentially because they want to. Again, we represent some companies that works really well for some families. But you just have to be aware of the pros and the cons. And then fixed indemnity, this is the most popular one when it comes to self-employed people. My wife and I carry this. Most of our self-employed clients carry this because it's not dependent upon your income. The ACA, it's dependent upon income. That's the only thing that matters with this. It's what's dependent upon is your health and the coverage that you want. You get to pick and choose. And with this, it's first dollar coverage, meaning you don't have a copay or co-insurance to meet. When you go to the doctor, the insurance says, we're going to pay this exact amount for a doctor visit. So based on if it's under that, great. If it's covered, if it's over, you're responsible for the difference. So this is where a lot of that, making sure you're proactive on the front end before getting things done. This plan works out really well. And actually with this plan, you'll see excess indemnity paid. So for example, when my wife and I go to the chiropractor, it's a $60 visit per person. For our particular plan, we have $120 covered in doctor visits, which our chiropractor falls under. So the insurance pays that $60 to the chiropractor, but there's a $60 difference. We keep that difference. They pay it to us, which works out really well. We like making money when going to the doctor. But these are the four different types without getting too in depth. No matter who you're working with, you just want to make sure like, hey, are you a broker? Hey, do you represent different companies? Do you represent all four health insurance coverages?
Mhm.
So hopefully that
Yeah,
answers.
you kind of give, yeah, yeah, there's, yeah, you get options, right?
Mhm.
Um, in every region is different, every state's a little different. Like,
Yep.
some of the big name brands only cover certain parts of states, and like,
Yep.
there's so much, there's just a lot of confusion. There's not clarity. And kind of when I was talking to you, there was just clarity all of a sudden. I was like, oh, this is exactly what I'm getting. Here's the price I'm paying. And I can walk away like, great, I have coverage.
Mhm.
And I'm not like digging through all these deep documentations and
Yeah.
then, going to the
Yeah.
doctor like, oh, sorry, we don't take your insurance, or like, there's just so many things that can come up. Um, and yeah, this was a little while ago, but when I was on traditional insurance,
Mhm.
which wasn't necessarily bad, but I was going to the physical therapist for a little knee injury I had,
Mhm.
and it like I just kept getting random bills in the
Yep.
mail, and no one could explain it, and like they weren't huge bills, but I was like, wait, I
Like,
thought
where's it
I
coming from?
actually I thought I
Yeah.
paid that, and then
Yep.
one ended up at claims, but I had paid it. And so there was
Right.
like this big
Yeah.
mistake. And I was like, whoa, why is, the claims up? So there was just all this stuff. And I just got really
Yep.
frustrated. Um, and yeah, the cost is not super friendly, especially when you're not using it. Yeah, I guess what makes this, you kind of said it, but maybe spell it out in a different way. Why is this better for like freelancers or self-employed? Because
Yeah.
there is some, I guess, legalities behind self-employed and taxes and stuff with when you're dealing with the government,
Yeah.
stuff changes when you're self-employed. I know that.
Yeah, we try to it sounds terrible, but we try to avoid the government as much as possible, right? And we find that most business owners don't like when the government is in their business, but when you're looking at government subsidized plans, and I'll keep it simple, we'll say ACA, that means Obamacare, government subsidized plans, marketplace, it's all the same thing. So for ACA plans, it's solely dependent on about how much money you make. That is it. There's nothing else that goes into it based on pricing. So if you're a
Mhm.
business owner, you tend to make more than the average employee, and they don't really care how much you bring home. They care how much you gross, right? So if you're making as a single person
Yeah.
$200,000 a year, they're going to go, what do you need help for? You're going to get a full price plan. And maybe it's not even good coverage. Maybe you still have a $9,000 deductible to meet before even doctor visits are covered. Who knows? So when we're looking at private insurance or indemnity, really designed for self-employed people, it's dependent upon the health that you're in and the coverage that you want. So you have a lot more options and control on where you go. And what we recommend to a lot of clients is you can do self-pay or you can use it like a normal insurance card. If they're a network, great. Walk in, hand your insurance card, let them take care of it. But you have a lot of negotiation power when you do self-pay. A lot of people don't understand that you don't have to tell the medical facilities that you have insurance. You don't have to do that. It's not the
Yeah.
law. So for example, we had a guy, he's actually the owner of our brokerage. He thought he was having like a medical episode with his heart. He thought he was having a heart attack, ended up going to the hospital. They said, okay, great. It's going to be $36,000. Where's your insurance card? He actually said, hey, I'm self-pay. An agent in our our brokerage. Sorry, my light just went off, completely distracted me.
You still look good.
Yeah, and he said, "Hey, like I'm self-pay." That took the bill down to $5,000 because he was self-pay, and then they submitted it to insurance. So you have the option, and a lot of people just understand that. Well, understandably, like people don't tell them
Yeah,
that. The
right,
insurance
right.
companies really aren't taking the time to tell people, or the medical facilities certainly aren't taking the time to tell people, like, hey, you can actually pay us less. So again,
Right.
that's where we come in. Our goal is to be a health insurance advocate um, for our clients. Again, like we don't want you to just get a policy and then, hey, call a 1-800 number, because that doesn't help us as a business. Like we want to retain clients. We want to make sure we're doing the right thing. So whoever you go with, just make sure like you have some sort of access to them, that they're going to help walk through those processes. Because in the insurance world, it happens all the time. Everybody's had some sort
Oh,
of bad experience, whether it was the insurance company, whether it was the agent, whatever it may be. Just make sure you have your options open.
yeah, and that thankfully I've never had anything close to a $36,000 bill, but
Yeah,
that's just
yeah,
wild. Like,
that's
so what
wild.
that shows you is like there actually is a privatized side to what's going on because you can just walk in, no, I'm going to pay, and they know they're not going to get 36K out of someone for what just happened,
Yeah,
and that's the inflated cost. But no
yeah,
one really wants to talk about it that way. Oh,
yep,
it's only 5K. Most, someone might struggle to pay that, but it's way more manageable than $36,000.
yeah, yeah. And
Yeah, and
to
I'm sure
clear
there's
that up,
hundreds of stories.
yeah, and it's not like you have to pay that $5,000 right there. You
Yeah.
can work out a payment plan, and then you can take what we do for our clients. I say, hey, send me an itemized bill, and I'll submit it for you. Um, so you say, hey, like I need to go home. We need to figure this out, or say, hey, like can we get on a payment plan? And then you can go home, talk to your agent, get them the information that they need. They can submit it to the insurance company, and they can pay it directly to the hospital, or they can pay it to you, and then you're responsible for obviously making up with the hospital. So a lot of folks just don't understand like how much negotiation and power and options that you have. They think they're at the whim of the insurance companies and the medical facilities when it like you're the consumer, you're the one buying the product. It's the same thing no matter where you go. If you don't like the price of beef at this grocery store, you can go to the other grocery store and buy beef there. You have all the options in the world.
Yeah, and same with quality. If you don't like the quality, you go elsewhere, right? Yeah, I was just gonna say that you kind of said it there is like you're empowered with this kind of alternative rather than kind of just being at the whim of kind of the system that we're kind of stuck in, essentially, I would say.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I guess I feel like we've really kind of hit this well. We could definitely
Yeah.
dwell into things, but any other kind of maybe closing thoughts, if you will?
Yeah, no, I think we hit on it really well. I would just say like don't get discouraged. A lot of people will just end up being like, screw it, I won't have any insurance at all. Don't recommend that. I recommend having something, but just remember you have options. You have control of your health care, of your health insurance, how much you want to pay for things. And just make sure whoever you're working with, they have the options to look at for you. If they're only telling you about one product, or like if they're only showing you one company, just question, be like, hey, do you have anything else? Is there anything else that we can look at? And if
Yeah.
they are brokers, they say, yeah, this is what I recommend, but here are some other options. They say, oh, this is kind of all we got. Like maybe just shop around a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Well, hey, I really appreciate you kind of taking the time to spell this out.
Yeah,
We'll drop some links or something in the description so people
yeah.
can get in touch with you, some contact info. And yeah, really, really appreciate your time, Damien.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Alrighty, take care.